Hello everyone, this is a psychic prediction video for December 2024. In this video I will be talking about my visions of global escalation as well as world news, Bitcoin of course, and just some general advice for December 2024. So to start off, the first thing that I was seeing in my visions was just Putin and explosions, and it was really hard to see much of anything but that, to be honest, and I felt like it was challenging to come up with a full video for the month because that was really just the thing that was just blocking everything else. So obviously that's what I should talk about first. Explosions. I got the sense that there are going to be explosions around Ukraine. That's not a huge surprise, I guess you could say, looking at the news. But regardless, that was just a major thing showing up. I was seeing Putin looking down as well. So it doesn't look like this is great for Putin. It looks like kind of a rough month for him, actually. I was also getting the sense of there being devastation in Ukraine as well as Russia, and just kind of the whole area, the whole situation, it not really being good for either side. Like basically no one's really winning here. And when I tuned into Joe Biden, which just kind of naturally popped up for me, in this vision, I saw him smirking at first, kind of like, yeah, we got those long-range missiles over there now. But by the end of the month, I see him looking down too. So it doesn't seem like this is a good situation for anyone. There seems to be some kind of situation here that doesn't work out for him, even though I got the sense that there's more of a bigger geopolitical agenda, if you want to call it that, which is kind of pushing for all of this, not necessarily in the favor of Ukraine, but I do get the sense that Joe Biden is disappointed because he does in fact want Ukraine to do well, and it seems that that is kind of built into his mindset. And along with that, he wants the best for the US as well. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of, let's just call it geopolitical agendas controlling what's really going on in the world that he is partially aware of, but not fully aware of. And because of this, lack of awareness of what's kind of really pulling the strings, he kind of lives in this paradigm that he's been fed that doesn't really reflect the powers operating behind him, if that makes any sense. Basically, the US and Ukraine are not really doing that great, and some of the powers that have been working alongside Joe Biden are okay with that, but Joe Biden's not, even though he's kind of part of that system, if that makes sense. So, Ukraine is taking the spotlight to sum things up. I was also seeing a possibility of explosions out at the sea, and I was getting the sense that this is related to Russia. I believe that this would be Russian missiles that could be shooting as far out as into the ocean. But it really just looks like there's a lot of explosions back and forth between the two countries. When I first tuned in to December, the first thing before that, I was just getting this dark silence. And that was the sense I was getting. And it was really hard to get much of anything besides that, anything beyond that, for a little while, until just the explosions was all that I could sense instead. But this dark silence, I'm getting that this is related to, well, I'll explain more of that later on in the video, but first I want to talk about how it's related to Joe Biden and him kind of realizing that his plans are not working out in the way that he wanted, even though a lot of the plans and the organizations he's working with kind of have gotten what they wanted, even though he hasn't. It's kind of like the difference between maybe the CEO and the employee. They might think that they're on the same level, but they're not. Let's see, what else? Yeah, so I was seeing Joe Biden being happy to leave, actually. And I think that, like, even though he's looking down and he's sad about the state of things, there's still this joy within him about leaving. And so there was this meeting that was kind of controversial where Donald Trump went to the White House and met with Joe Biden. I almost said Joe Rogan. Joe Biden. And it was controversial because Joe Biden was so happy and smiling, and he looked like Donald Trump was his best friend, and it was all over the news. But I get the sense that the reason for that was actually because he's happy to be leaving, because he's just kind of tired of being in the White House, even though on some ego level he doesn't want to leave, but like deep down inside he's relieved and very happy to be leaving. So that's what I got for that situation. I was also getting this sense of riots and protests, this kind of battle, and it felt like it was coming from Europe. And I was just seeing some serious political division between two sides, and it was as if people were throwing things at each other, and it was just a political mess, just too much political division. So it may be wise, potentially, if you're in that area of somewhere in Europe, to just kind of keep an eye out for events like that and maybe try and stay safe, I guess. India was also popping up as something large crumbling down, and it's almost as if this could be like a statue or a temple or something, but I don't know if this is literal or symbolic. But that was the image that I was shown. And basically the message is that it's chaos. Again, something large crumbling down. I don't know what that could represent, or if it's a literal object where people are running from it. But basically chaos was the sense that I was getting. So make sure you have water. That was the specific message that came through. For anyone that may be in India, just make sure you have a storage of water. And also stay safe. So yeah, that's what I got for that. So I'll move on to Bitcoin. Of course, if you like this video so far, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for monthly predictions every month before the month. But Bitcoin. So last month I said Bitcoin was going to reach a new high and then it would come down the second half of the month. So it did reach a new high, but it has not come down yet. It started to come down just a little bit, I think, like yesterday or a couple days ago. It's currently November 27th as of recording this video now. But what I'm seeing for Bitcoin moving forward into December is it comes down, but then it shoots back up again. And it's possible we could actually see it break 100K at that point. And then it comes back down again in the second half is what I'm getting here. But it comes down much further. It could actually be pretty bad and pretty devastating. Now, I've been saying this for a while, that sometime around November it would be bad. About 6 months ago, I was saying like sometime around November. I pinpointed November, but as we got closer to it, I was saying actually it's going to be a little bit later into December, moving to January and February, and maybe even March before it starts to get better again. But I want to say that even though it can be bad, and I have said before that it could reach as low as 40K, and I am still seeing that, but I don't think that is going to stay at that level. It's going to be quick and it's going to recover fast. I've had other people reach out to me and tell me that they've had other psychics tell them the same thing, so that's interesting. I'm specifically seeing this somewhere around January through February, where it could go down really low and have a quick recovery. So you could potentially put some limit buy orders in at those prices and see if it hits those prices. Maybe do a couple different ones. I don't know. This is not investment advice. I could always be wrong, but that's what I'm doing personally. However, by the end of 2025, even though this does look kind of rocky, I do see it going up, building up, and I do see it hitting a new high again by the end of 2025. Of course, if you want to hear me, not hear me, but read all of my predictions for altcoins and like hundreds of altcoins and Bitcoin, I usually do at least like a couple updates every month, if not every week, for Bitcoin. But moving on from altcoins and Bitcoin, November, I said, well, that would be last month. Well, it's technically still November as of now, but in reference to the reading for December, this is the previous month, I was saying there were going to be secrets coming out. And now there's a bunch of different ways that that's happened, and I actually talked about that on my Patreon page, which is free to join if you want to check that out, and it's actually a public post. But regardless, secrets coming out. One thing I want to mention is that there was a Pentagon UFO office that testified to Congress, and there was an Airforce captain who said that he witnessed UFOs deactivate 10 nuclear missiles in 1967. So I thought that was very interesting and worth mentioning here, because I was saying that there were going to be leaks of information. There are also leaks of information around Joe Biden and some other things that you can, I don't want to get into it right now, but you can check that out on my Patreon for free. Moving forward into December, I do see less leaks coming out. But overall, this is a pattern we're going to be seeing more of, and I am seeing more coming out in January. But December is kind of like a transition month, like a pivot point, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of shifting energies going on right now. We are, as I described last month, we're kind of realigning ourselves with our new future self, basically. And this is because timelines have been shifting so much, and timelines are confusing, and yes, timelines are constantly shifting, and there's infinite timelines, etc. But there's like bands of timelines, major specific bands, and that's a big shift that's taken place. If you want to understand that, I talked about that last month. You can watch that if you want. But anyways, massive shifts going on. And this is November was kind of where most of those shifts were really taking place. Things were really kind of breaking, so to speak. The strings attached to things were snapping, and we're kind of realigning ourselves. But December, we're learning more to slow down. And this goes back to the first thing that I felt when I tuned into December was just this dark silence. And this is us really calming down, slowing down, and being able to kind of just like cut out all the noise. And that's a positive thing. Um, Again, it's kind of like a pivot point. The way I see it is, say we're in like one area of our life. I don't know how to describe it. We're just like one way of being. And we've kind of come down, like we're coming down from that, right? And then December is kind of the pivot point where we reach the bottom and then we start going back up, but we're doing it in a different way now. So it's like we were over here, now we're over here, different section. But right now we're in the part where we're kind of pivoting. It's kind of like Mercury retrograde, where like right in between before Mercury is retrograde or direct. It's like that pivot point in between. That's actually kind of one of the craziest parts of it from what I understand. But I'm not an astrologer. But anyways, um, this is a time for slowing down, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. March, as I said last month, March is kind of the point where things stabilize more and we're no longer in this process of, well, we're going to be still in the process of shifting, but we're kind of in a process where the timelines have kind of stabilized more to be more of a direct, like, you've jumped trains, and by March it's like, okay, now the trains are separating. It's going to be harder to jump trains as easily. Not that you can't, it's just going to be harder. So, what is this month good for December? I got that December will be good for calming down, and spending time at home. So I've already been kind of feeling that a little bit, but I think that's going to be more so the case heading into December. So that might be something to consider in your schedule. Also, December is good for focusing on the experiences you want to have in the future. And I was very specific about using the word experience rather than goal, because it's really not about achievement, for at least the energy of December. It's more about focusing on the actual experience that you want to have. And so there's a little bit of this comfort, like what is comforting? Um, and what do you want, like how do you want to experience something? It's not just about what are your goals in terms of like numbers and digits, but like how do you want to experience that? And that's something that's really coming through for December to think about, to help you realign yourself back with your future self in the best way possible. So, let's see here, where was I? Home improvements is something that I've been doing a lot lately. It also seems to be aligned a little bit with December energy, as well as self-improvement. And that's a big one. I would say self-improvement more so than home improvement, but sometimes those can go hand in hand. And making less plans. That's some advice right there. So it's good for making less plans. But what is the month bad for? What I was getting in my visions was yelling, being loud, because, and the reason why that's bad is because the month is all about calming down, soothing, and recalibrating to your future self. And so you want to cut out that noise, and being noisy, it's not helping other people, it's also not helping yourself because you can't even hear your own thoughts. The other thing that came through was money focused. So it's December apparently is not a good month to be money focused. I feel like November was a more money focused month, or has been so far. And December, I'm getting the sense that it's not the best to focus on money because it's more about turning inwards. And it's not that you have to, it's just that the energies, the way, the path that the universe is taking us forward, these seem to be more beneficial overall, generally speaking. Of course, there will always be exceptions to this. So, the general advice, when I asked for general advice for December, I got play it safe and simple. Sometimes simple is safe and safe is simple. Also, take your time. Allow yourself to take your time. Be yourself. Do not go along with things. I think that's actually what I said last month too for advice, so there's a little bit of that bleeding into December. Take time out for yourself. Settle down so that you can find your passion again. And a lot of the times people are, think they're chasing their passion, but they're really just chasing the noise. And it's just too noisy, and they're not settled down enough to even really find their true passion. So this isn't about chasing your passion, this is about finding your true passion. So filtering out the noise is a important aspect of that so that you can realign with your new future self. And that's pretty much what I have for December, but also I have a news link where I talk about some of the money laundering and shocking Muslim news that I was mentioning last month, and kind of what's going on with all of that. That will be actually on my Patreon page for free. You don't need a free trial. You just click it. It's public, whether or not you even have a free trial or not. But even then, you can get a free 7-day trial on my Encyclopedia of Psychic Readings on Patreon. The idea is that you can search for whatever name, subject, event, or whatever it may be, or of course altcoin with hundreds of altcoins and predictions on that stuff. So basically you can type in whatever you want in the search bar and find whatever you want. The only problem is that if you cancel your subscription, if you sign up and you cancel your subscription, you will no longer be able to use the search bar, as far as I know, unless Patreon has updated itself. But I would suggest, if you're going to sign up for the free 7-day trial, put it in your calendar and then cancel it the day before so that you still have access to the search bar. And it's really easy to cancel. It's literally 2 or 3 clicks and you cancel it. You can just look it up online how to do that. But yeah, it's a free 7-day trial if you do want to do that as well. I talk about what's really happening in the world, such as world news. Recently I've been talking about some interesting subjects like the deep state. What really is it? What's going on with Trump and the idea that he's getting rid of the deep state? Will that actually happen? What does that even mean? As well as I went into cloud seeding and the idea of chemtrails, as they're called. And is that true or not? I'm not going to talk about that here. It's a little too controversial. Regardless, there I talk about that, hundreds of altcoins and blind readings. Recently I did a blind reading on Randy Kramer, who claims to be part of the secret space program. I'll just say I'm a little skeptical of some things. I'm not going to reveal the situation, but you can join for the free trial and see the reading yourself. It's a blind reading, meaning that I assign 6-digit numbers to a name, to many names. I mix them up. I randomly pull one of the 6-digit numbers so I don't know who I'm reading. I know it's a person, that's all I know. And then I do a blind reading on that person. And then I look up the name associated with that number. I find out who it is. I do a little bit of background research and I kind of compare what I was reading with the research and I can kind of draw some conclusions off that. Or suspicions, I guess. They're not necessarily full conclusions, but I can see what makes sense to me. And then from there, I do some more readings. At that point, they're questions, more specific questions based off the research. At that point, it's no longer a blind reading, but I've kind of tuned into the person so much that I feel like at that point it doesn't really necessarily matter either. So anyways, join for free, and then if you want to stay, the cheapest tier is only $5 a month, the price of one cup of coffee, as they say. And the highest tier, where you get access to everything, including all of the past hundreds of altcoin predictions, is $16 a month, and tiers in between that price. So join if you're interested. The links will be below this. Again, just check out the free public posts where I talk about last month predictions such as money laundering, shocking Muslim news, the UFOs, etc., etc. And give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe for monthly predictions every month before the month if you have not yet. And if you've made it this far, thank you for watching and have a great day.